Most of the things we struggle with didn't start with us. They've been passed down in our family line. You don't get to choose your battles. You didn't get to pick what you'll have to deal with. Just as you inherit your parents' DNA, which determines your eye color, how tall you'll be, what kind of hair you'll have, you also inherit attitudes, habits, and behaviors from those that have gone before you. Research shows how depression can be passed down. Anger, low self-esteem, addictions. It was in your bloodline and it showed up with you. The scripture calls this an iniquity. That means a hereditary weakness. I've seen families that can't get along. Parents arguing, cousins upset, siblings bitter, grandparents at odds. That's a spirit of strife, a spirit of division that keeps getting passed down. I knew this young man growing up. His father was indicted for fraud, went to prison. This young man told me how his grandfather was the same way. He was so upset with them, couldn't understand why they'd make poor choices, why they'd cheat people. 20 years later, a friend called and said, "Did you hear about so-and-so? He's in trouble for fraud." He didn't choose it, it chose him. It will continue to go from generation to generation until someone rises up and says, "I'm going to break this negative cycle." It didn't start with you. The good news is it can end with you. You can be the one that affects generations to come. You can make it easier on your children and grandchildren. And it's good to look back at your family history and see, what are we good at? What do we excel in? And what are the weaknesses? Where do I see a pattern of mediocrity, compromise, and failure? When you understand those same spirits are coming after you, then you can be on guard. You can be prepared. Say, "No thanks, depression. You're not welcome here. No thanks, I'm not giving in to this addiction, this compromise. No thanks, I'm not living inferior, insecure, angry, bitter." Don't let that iniquity continue on. It's been in your family line, but the reason you're hearing this is so that you can put an end to it. I heard this phrase, "It ran in my family until it ran into me." You're the difference maker. You're called to set a new standard. You're the exception. Everyone in your family was negative except you. Everyone was broke except you. Everyone addicted except you. Everyone bitter except you. I am looking at exceptional people. People that stand out. People that defy the odds. People that break barriers. God has destined you to break the negative cycle, to set your family on a new course, to reach levels that you've never seen. Now don't miss your chance. This is a window of opportunity, a door that will not always be open. It may be difficult, but God won't ask you to do something and not give you the grace to do it. Your children are counting on you. Your great-grandchildren, their destinies hang in the balance. Will they deal with the same things you do? Or will you put an end to it? Will you be the one to break that negative cycle and stop the plague? Things you've struggled with in the past are not going to be a struggle anymore. Chains that have held you back are being broken. Strongholds that have kept you captive are coming down. God's going to do what you can't do on your own. When you stand for righteousness, when you refuse to compromise, when you say, "No, I'm not hanging around these same friends that are holding me back." When you break out of that negative mindset and believe bigger, pray bolder, dream larger, you're going to see the hand of God turn things around. Break addictions, bring you out of dysfunction, promote you to levels that you never thought possible. A friend of mine was raised in a good family. When he was a toddler, his father, in his early 20s, got a job at a large transportation company. He was at an entry-level position out washing the vehicles. He's a hard worker, always on time, went the extra mile. Those were the good things that had been passed down. We all have these positive attributes in our family line, people that pass down courage, talent, good attitudes. The key is to take the positive, build on the good things, and leave the negative behind. This man's parents and grandparents, they were good people, but they struggled with alcohol. Over time, they both ended up becoming alcoholics. That was the environment he was raised in. Well, he received promotion after promotion, from out washing the cars to supervising the department, then head of operations. 10 years later, he was in senior management. Everything was going great. His family was blessed. But in this new position, the people he worked with would go out several times a week at lunch and drink. They called it liquid lunch. Now, he never touched alcohol, knowing what his parents and grandparents struggled with. But he didn't want to seem odd, like he was too square, so he started drinking. Just a few times a week, no big deal. He didn't realize that alcohol gene was lying dormant in his DNA. He was predisposed to alcoholism. That was passed down to him. He made the mistake of waking up that gene. He started drinking more and more. The scripture says, don't give the enemy a foothold. Don't open the door. If you crack it a little, he's going to push and push. He'd love for all that negative baggage to go from generation to generation. Before long, it started affecting this father. He started showing up late for work, started missing appointments. He got to where some days he wouldn't come home from work, wasn't with the family anymore. Got so bad he lost his job, started living in shelters. My friend told me how they were the perfect family, living the American dream, and then alcoholism destroyed their life. My friend is in the entertainment industry now, and he's very successful. He said, Joel, I don't touch alcohol, not because of religious reasons, but I know I'm predisposed to alcoholism. When you look back in your family line and you see things that have caused heartache and pain, things that have kept people from their potential, it's important to recognize that those genes are passed down. You're predisposed to that. But here's the beauty. That doesn't mean it's going to automatically happen. You get to choose whether you activate that gene or whether you leave it lying dormant. His father activated it and it ruined his life. His son chose to leave it dormant, and he's living a blessed, free, favor-filled life. Alcoholism ran in his family until it ran into him. He was a Phineas. He had the courage to step up and put an end to it. His attitude was, this alcoholism didn't start with me, but it's going to stop with me. I'm the difference maker. Now, it may not be alcohol for you. It may be bitterness, low self-esteem, anger. There's a gene lying dormant. Don't wake it up. Don't open the door. You're going to be tempted. When you look back at your history, there may be things that are fine for other people, but you know you shouldn't do it because you've been predisposed to it. You don't want to wake up that gene. Be aware and be diligent. Don't play with fire. Don't think you can compromise just a little, be dishonest just a little, run with the wrong crowd just a little. It's not worth the chance. What are you going to wake up? What genes are you going to activate? It's good to ask yourself, why do I struggle in this area? Why do I feel I'm not good enough? Why am I drawn to compromise, to addictions, to manipulation? Those are battles you didn't choose. Battles that didn't start with you. They were passed down, but they can stop with you. You can be the Phineas. It may not be easy, but if you'll make a move, God will make a move. If you'll take a step of faith, God will give you the grace to do what you can't do on your own. He's just waiting for you to rise up. That may mean to forgive, to get rid of the bitterness. It may mean to get help with that addiction, to attend our freedom class. It may mean, like my father, to have a new mindset, to not accept defeat and mediocrity as your destiny, to have a new vision, to believe that you can leave your mark. You have to deactivate those negative traits that have been passed down. You didn't have anything to do with it. It's an iniquity, something you inherited, but God wouldn't have allowed it if it was going to keep you from your destiny. You can break that negative cycle and be the one to set your family on a new course.